Hi, my name is Brianna. I hope you all are having a really happy new year. This video was a subscriber request that ever since I saw it, I thought it was really unique. I've never actually watched a video like this, so I don't really know how it's going to turn out. Likely pretty chatty, just because usually when I get going on a tangent, you can't stop me. But I thought it was a really cool idea and something I really haven't shared with any of you yet. But this subscriber requested a college experience video. So wanting to know, I'm assuming just kind of what college was like for me. And I feel like to start that story, I should talk a little bit about just where I was in high school upon the time that I was even deciding what college was going to be right for me. So really quickly, my name's Brianna. I live in Ohio. I am a working mama of one little boy, and a little girl is on the way. She will join us in May. And I'm married. My husband's name is Adam. And the line of work I'm currently in is not what I had originally thought I was going to do. My dream was to be a news anchor. I wanted to major in broadcast journalism. And I think that seed really got implanted in my head when I was around 7th grade. I auditioned for a local cable show all about the arts in the Cleveland area, and it was such a unique experience. I was one of 6 middle school age hosts. We went to the Cleveland School of the Arts and the Cleveland Museum of Arts and the Beck Center and Playhouse Square, and all of these amazing arts and theaters and dance companies are in the Cleveland area. We actually in Cleveland have the largest theater district next to New York City. A lot of people don't know that. So the experience, needless to say, sort of was the bug that bit me, that I loved being on TV. And what I loved the most about being a host was getting to interview people and getting to talk to them about their story and learn about them and how they got into dance, or how they decided to start painting, or why they got into comedy. We even went to a comedy club and interviewed a bunch of comedians. So my teachers had found out that I was part of this TV show, and in high school, I went to a fabulous public high school, and they had broadcasting classes as well as journalism classes, and it actually kind of worked out really funny where the husband and wife, the wife taught the journalism course and the husband taught the broadcasting course, but they were just really cool people, and I feel like they were the type of teachers you dream of having, who are you can do this. This is something you were born to do. You have all of the skills. If you keep working hard, you can achieve this goal of being a news anchor someday. So I'm really grateful to those 2 teachers, but I think the teacher, and really she was my coach, she was never my actual teacher, but my track coach just changed my life when I really think about my college experience. So I grew up in a really humble house. Neither of my parents had gone to college. I feel very, very fortunate that I lived in an area where the majority of my peers were very wealthy, and had a lot, and either their parents had gone to college. For some of them it had been their grandparents, or generations beyond that had gone to college. So when the college process was going on, I was kind of just lucky that I was surrounded by other kids who would talk about, we need to take the SAT, I need to take the ACT, we have to start our applications at this time. And my track coach, when I started filling out the application, was the one who really helped me that fall, because when my parents found out that you actually had a fee associated with applying to colleges, my mom told me I could apply to 2. She's like, you get to pick 2, because if it's $50, I think it was around $50, or could have been a little more. She's like, you're picking 2, that's all we can afford right now. So she, my track coach, helped me go through the list of all of these journalism school programs around the country and narrowed it down to the 2 schools that would be the best for me to apply to. I ended up applying to Ohio University because in the state of Ohio, it was the best journalism program. And I think even nationally, it was in the top 5 at that point, or at least the top 10. So both nationally and for being an in-state school was a really great choice. And then the #1 journalism program at the time in the entire country was Medill and Northwestern. So I was applying to Scripps at Ohio University and Medill in Northwestern, which is right outside of Chicago. And my dream was Chicago. I think when you grow up in the Midwest and you're not from Chicago, Chicago's like the New York kind of. Like, it's like, I need to get to Chicago. Like, that's where I should be. That's where I should live. That's like the city where if you have career aspirations, you want to work in Chicago. My heart was set on Northwestern, and I applied to Northwestern and OU, and I got accepted to both, which, you know, when I think about back to where I was as a senior, and you know, neither of my parents had gone to college, so I don't even think they realized that that like really was an accomplishment. Like, I do realize now that if, you know, Landon someday were to apply to a #1 program in the country and get accepted into it, like, I would be literally like jumping off my roof, so excited as a parent. So yeah, like when I think back on it now, I'm like, wow. But the reality of the situation was Northwestern is crazy high tuition. I think at the time it was like $52,000 a year. So you figure 4 years of college, you're over $200,000 in debt, which to some people that's not a lot, or some people, their parents have, like some of my friends at school were like, my parents saved $250,000 for my college savings account. I had no college savings account. I had, you know, my parents, they loved me, supported me, and they gave me a fabulous childhood and sent me to a wonderful school, and they did everything that they could as parents to set me up to be accepted to the #1 journalism school in the country. But they couldn't pay for it. They couldn't help pay for it. And that was really, really scary. So the decision that my family ultimately made was to go to OU, where I want to say at the time I started, tuition was like, it was somewhere between 10 to 12, I think. And that was like just tuition. That wasn't room and board or food or anything like that. And so my track coach was really the one who then also said, like, well, there's FAFSA, like you need to apply for federal aid and you need to apply to all of these scholarships. And here's ways that you can be getting assistance with books and all of these other associated fees that like you're not even thinking of when you think of the total of like just what tuition and room and board. And at the time you had to get a meal plan if you were living on campus, which you had to do as a freshman and a sophomore at OU. So I just think of everything she did, and then even as like a graduation present got me like a gift certificate to the bookstore at OU. And I mean, she really just made my college dream possible, because I don't even think my parents, even though they were very supportive and wanted me to go, it was like they wouldn't have known about any of those things when it comes to FAFSA. Or, I mean, they definitely knew like, oh, there's scholarships, aren't there? But like as far as where to find them or how to apply. And I remember I would spend hours, countless hours, going through all of these websites she found for me, applying to any scholarship I was even applicable for. And I actually ended up getting this like amazing Burger King scholarship and some other like really, really random ones. So that long story short, I made my college debt really, really manageable for me, just because I didn't have a college savings account from my parents, and I wasn't getting financial support from my parents while in college or to pay off college loans afterwards. Ultimately, because of money, chose Ohio University, which I had the best time at OU. If you're not from the States or the Ohio area, in the state of Ohio, OU's in like the southeast section, which is technically in like the Appalachian region of the country, so very rural. If you leave OU, it's basically farmland country, very sparsely populated, so not kind of like the Cleveland cities, suburbia I had grown up in. But it was beautiful. OU's campus is so picturesque. In the fall, there's like leaves and there's all the buildings are brick and there's brick paths everywhere, and there's Court Street, or like Uptown is the area where there's a ton of restaurants and bars and those bookstores and boutiques, and there's just all of these different greens. There's East Green, West Green, South Green, and there's a river. The Hocking River runs along, like, it's like almost like a circle around campus, kind of like a half circle. And you can go jogging or go for walks along the river, and I just loved my time there. Freshman year, I'm a total nerd. I lived in honors housing, but I met such an amazing group of women that became my college best friends, and they're just all like so incredible when I think about them. And being in the journalism school, immediately got involved with the campus TV station, WOUB. I eventually ended up both reporting and anchoring on the news program, as well as the Ohio Sports Zone, like a sports TV show. And OU's really fun. It was the #1 party school, maybe 1 or 2 of the years I was there. I know at least 1 of the years, and always in the top 5. And again, school was always my priority, but I definitely took advantage on the weekends with girlfriends of going out and enjoying that part of the college experience. To be perfectly honest, I'm not somebody that like ever gets completely out of control or blacked out or doesn't remember what happened to me. Like, I could tell you about all of those times that I like went out and had a really good time. So I was always really safe, and I think that's really important because I actually had some pretty scary experiences at OU, actually. But I think this is the reality of college. And if you look at the statistics of whether it's some kind of violence or especially like sexual assaults on campus, no matter what campus you go to, like that happens on college campuses. So especially as a female, you have to be extremely cognizant of your safety at all times. So this happened one night, and I was with my college sweetheart at the time, and we were coming back from the Uptown bar area, and out of nowhere, like I remember hearing like stomping behind us kind of, but the person, who I think it's really unfortunate actually, and it's probably crazy for me to even say that after what happened, but it was very clear he was on some kind of drugs, like clearly hallucinating drugs by the way he behaved after the fact. But we were walking, it was rainy, we were under the umbrella. I heard the stomping, and then all of a sudden I just felt like a whack, and he had a metal like broomstick pole, and he whacked my legs out. So like I immediately fell to the ground. My thought is he probably thought, because I was under a pink umbrella, it was my umbrella, that I was with another woman. And the guy I was with at the time actually then like started screaming, scared him. So the guy with the pole started running. My boyfriend at the time chased him down and held him there. There was actually 2 other guys kind of in distance that saw what happened that ran also to help. So meanwhile, I was like laying basically in the middle of the street, like my knee was completely busted because of him hitting it with a pole. But my boyfriend and these 2 other guys held him down until the police arrived, and he was just, you know, saying crazy things. Like, this is how it was very clear that this wasn't a person who was sober in any way, shape, or form, or in the right state of mind. And I think like the really unfortunate side of all of it is that he actually ended up getting expelled. Like the university expelled him for what he did to us. And I guess like this is just part of me, I think, always wanting to try to help people, is I just hope that that was a wake-up call for him, his family, to get him whatever kind of help he needed if he was suffering an addiction or suffering mental illness or whatever it was that like caused him to be in that state and do what he did to us. Because I can't imagine, like, if you're expelled from college, then what are your options? And what is your like career and life trajectory? So yeah, I would say that was probably like the biggest and scariest moment of my college experience. And what I think then really impacted my college experience was an advisor I had who, from day one, I remember meeting with her the first week, and sort of explained to her my situation. I think she could tell right off the bat from some of the questions getting to know me of, oh, so you're the first person in your family to go to college and you're really worried about your finances. And she asked me, she said, do you want to try to get out in 3 years? And in my head, I'm like, well, 3 years of tuition is a lot less than 4 years of tuition. Like, can I do that? Is that possible? And basically she said, instead of taking 16 credit hours every quarter, if you take 20, you've then calculated the amount. She said, I think you need to take 1 summer course, which ultimately the way it worked out, I ended up taking, I think, 3 courses one summer just to kind of minimize a bit of the workload another quarter. But she is like, yeah, if you just take like a couple summer courses to get your credit hours up, you can graduate in 3 years. Excuse me, Dr. D, you were seriously such a lifesaver, money saver. You're an amazing woman. And that's why I feel so lucky. Like, I feel like I've had the best teachers, coaches, advisors that like just set me up for so much success. And I'm so appreciative of them. Worked my tail off to have 20 credit hours, which was basically 5 to 6 classes, depending if it was like 3 or 4 credit hours of course, every single quarter at OU. I learned so much. I feel like my high school really set me up for college. I actually met a lot of people in my classes who did not feel like their either public or private education really set them up to be successful, but I didn't have a problem. I actually feel like I had really, really strong writing foundational skills, all of the like study habits and test taking skills that were necessary for college, so that I joke in high school I never would have gotten perfect attendance. But in college, I think I missed 1 class my entire college experience. And it was because I was truly like so sick. I ended up going to classes later in the day, but like I woke up that morning was like, I cannot go. So I am a total geek nerd. And I think it also had something to do with the fact that I was paying for college myself. So I took it so seriously. Like, to me, it was as important as a job is to me now, that like, this is my first priority. It is what I'm supposed to be doing. It doesn't matter if I want to work out or have fun with my friends or any of the other side hobbies or interests. Like, going to my classes, completing my coursework was like the #1 priority to me those 3 years of my undergrad. So when it comes to classes in college, and obviously I was like working my tail off trying to get everything done in 3 years when it came to my undergrad, but I loved the college courses I got to take. I feel like in high school, like the best word for me is like mainstream. Like, I feel like everything you learn in high school is so mainstream. But in college, I got to take such interesting classes that, one, I just felt like I had more diversity amongst my peers and my friends in my classes, so I could learn so much more from them because they had such unique backgrounds. And I just feel like professors, it's not like in high school where teachers have to keep everything so PG. Like, I feel like we could talk about topics and issues in ways that truly, I grew up so much in college, but you just can talk about things so much more as an adult without holding back, without being worried about what's your opinion, how it will be taken, because it just felt like so much more of a safer space where everybody was open to those diverse and unique opinions, backgrounds, thoughts, because we were all there to learn from one another, not to be carbon copies of each other. So I feel like that's one of the things I just loved so much more about learning in college. Like, I feel like I've always loved learning, but the topics and just different things I would talk about on a day-to-day just felt so much higher level than anything I'd ever done in my high school courses. And I think like the other part of college for me that was just such a growing up experience is 2 weeks after I got to college, my parents told my sister and I that they were getting divorced after being married for like 20 years or almost 20 years. So needless to say, I think it put a lot of different stress on me and my family because of that situation. And in particular, I've always had so much guilt because what that meant for my sister, who was still at home and at the time only in middle school, and I was away, and could be removed from, I think, a lot of the negativity of that situation. Yeah, so it was just, sorry. It's something how it's crazy that it's like been over 10 years and it's still so easy to go back to that place of just feeling like, okay, Brie, you know, you got to do this. Like, you really are on your own now. So I think in some ways, oh, I would say it's because I'm pregnant. Like, I would love to blame crying on being pregnant, but that's not true. Anyways, I do believe everything, especially our trials and tribulations. Like, God knows what we can handle. And he gives us tough situations because he's preparing us for something even bigger or something else down the line that like life has in store for us that we have to be ready for. And I think, you know, timing, especially of tragedies or sad things, is never going to feel like it's perfect. But I think how that impacted me was it made me take college even more seriously. Like, I already was taking it so seriously because of knowing the financial burden of it. But I think knowing that in life sometimes, like, there are moments where it is going to be just you. And it is obviously so wonderful to have a family and to have support and to have friends and to have people you can turn to. But there's gonna be times where like they have other things going on in their lives and their personal issues where you're gonna have to figure some things out on your own. And I think, if anything, college helped to prepare me to be a really independent person, woman. I know I can do things on my own, and I'm not like afraid to take on challenges on my own. Like, I think it's always better to have a team or to have a partner or to have somebody else's support. But when the going gets really tough, if I need to do something on my own, like, I have the strength and the experience to do that. So yeah, it was really tough. And still like affects me to this day when I think about it. Like, I would love more than anything to have my mom and dad still together and to have holidays not be hard, and to like come home to the house that I grew up in with both of them in it. But that's not reality, and I'm sure there's tons of you out there who maybe you yourself are divorced, or your parents are divorced, or someone you know. Like, there's a lot of people when you actually think about it. And I know I'm not the only one. So you get through it and you figure out ways to make it work, and you stay positive and always keep looking on the bright side. And more than anything, I feel like faith. I wasn't overly religious in college. Like, I honestly didn't go to church when I was in college. I never found like a church home or anything like that, but I was still extremely spiritual and extremely grounded in my faith, and like absolutely relied on my faith and daily conversations with the Lord to get me through what was a really rough time for me. By the end of year 2, because you had to live in dormitories for 2 years at OU, I was just over it. I was like, there's only so many healthy options. I'm sick of the salad bar. I'm sick of the fruit bar, the same old thing. Like, it got really redundant. I mean, I'm very grateful I always had a meal, thanks to my scholarships and things like that. But yeah, I would say food is probably then like the worst part, at least if like you have to continue eating in the dining hall, because it's just kind of the same stuff over and over, and it's not that like good home cooked meal. And then I'd say one of the best things is Coley. I got Coley when I was finishing my undergrad. So it was like right around Thanksgiving break, because we always had finals right before Thanksgiving and then would go on winter break. And I got Coley like the week of finals, took her home for Thanksgiving break, worked on potty training, like all of those weeks with her, and then had her back for that's like winter and spring quarter, and then the entire year of grad school. And I just feel like, I mean, I was already like a very responsible college student. Like, I was not someone who just like was crazy and wild. But she really was. She was like my little baby and just made me so happy. And it just felt so good to like come home and have this like happy little white fur ball ready to shower with me with love and kisses. So for a time where, you know, obviously there was definitely points where I felt really lonely. I always had really great friends, and honestly, I dated some really nice people. So I always had some kind of like companionship or somebody that like was my buddy. But I think Coley, I'm so grateful for that dog. But then 3 years, I graduated with my bachelor's in broadcast journalism degree. I'm super proud of that. It took a ton of work, especially to do it in 3 years instead of 4. And I also had another professor who somehow I've had these amazing like women role models. But she talked me into staying for a graduate degree. And this was at the time that the stock market had crashed. The job market was not looking good. So I was actually really afraid upon graduating that I couldn't find a job. Like all of these news stations were on a hiring freeze. So she talked me into staying and being her graduate assistant. So I actually got to teach broadcast journalism courses that entire year. So from like 8 a.m. till noon, I would teach the broadcast journalism courses with her. And then after noon, I would have all of my classes. So going to class and working, it was definitely more than a full-time job. But in that year, graduated with my master's in communications. And while that year I was working on that master's, I was taking a pretty decent amount of political science courses that related, because I really wanted to do some sort of political journalism and reporting. And I heard about a program called Teach for America, and I applied, got accepted, and got a placement to teach English in Baltimore. So again, this is kind of how I started the story of what I do now. I never thought I'd be doing, but it's because I got this incredible opportunity with Teach for America to teach 7th grade English. I taught for 2 years and work with some of the most amazing kiddos on the planet, and it's so fun to still see what they're doing, because after I left teaching, I would never accept any of their friend requests while I was their teacher. But after I did leave Baltimore and was no longer their teacher, I can see what they're up to now, and some of them have started college, and I have one who's even like playing basketball in college. And so it's really fun to see them become the first person in their family to go to college. It's funny how life works itself out. Didn't ever become the TV news anchor like I aspired to be in 7th grade, but I'm really, really happy with my life choices, and I feel like my college experience was such a huge piece on just like what got me to where I am today, completely changed my trajectory as far as what kind of career potential I had, what kind of life I can provide for my family, and just what kind of person I am and the kind of work ethic that I strive to impart on both my son and my daughter for how they should operate and how they should contribute to society someday. So that was a lot. I hope that this kind of fulfilled your request or maybe answered some questions. If you have more questions, though, leave them in the comments, or if you have another sort of video request or something you'd like to know more about, leave that in the comments as well. And I'll do my best to respond and let you guys know anything that you're curious about, or especially if you are contemplating either going to college, maybe you're in high school, or trying to figure out major or how you can afford college or anything like that. Let me know. I feel like I've been so blessed to have such amazing people give me the right type of guidance. Let me know how I can be of help to you. Okay, well that is it for this video. Again, my channel is full of mommy and lifestyle videos, also open to your requests. So let me know if you have any additional ones. I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.